Welcome to the Make Work Not Suck podcast.
I've been talking with people about AI for a long time, and here's how I framed it up to an audience a couple of years ago. I said, based on the trends that we have seen in technology development, technology tends to get twice as good every 18 months. So imagine a day when you walk into work, whatever that means for you, right? Maybe it's you walk into your bedroom and pop open your laptop and your job has been replaced because there is now a robot, an AI computer, something or other, that will do your job as well as you can. But it doesn't need vacation days. It doesn't take days off. It doesn't have sick days. It doesn't have a wife and kids that it needs to take care of. And it doesn't ask for performance raises, bonuses, because it's getting 100% cheaper every year and a half.
So basically you're asking, is AI coming after my job?
I think AI is coming after all of us. The question is, how can AI make work not suck? Because I think it's very easy to believe that AI is going to make work suck for everyone.
Or is AI going to create better, higher value jobs?
Ooh, interesting. Let's discuss.
All right. So let's see. The vision of AI in work, business versus employee perspectives. Which one do you want to take?
I'll take the business perspective. You take the employee perspective.
Okay.
I've worked with a lot of Chick-fil-A operators. They cannot wait for the robot army to be here. They tend to hire a lot of teens and early 20s. Those would be considered, Gen Zs, maybe some Gen Alphas. And this one guy that I've worked with for several years, he was like, being a Chick-fil-A operator is great. People love the food. I'm respected in the community and, make good money. And I was like, okay, so then what's the problem? He's like, being a Chick-fil-A operator sucks. All I do is deal with teenager drama all day long. And he's like, man, if I could just have a robot, I would gladly pay significantly more because I know they're going to show up. I'm not going to have to deal with the nonsense. I'm not going to have to deal with the BS that comes with just dealing with people. And look, this is a hard job. I just need somebody to bread chicken. It isn't sexy, but somebody's got to do it. And the moment I could hire a robot to do it and replace that 18-year-old in the back, I will do it.
So that's interesting. We started out with AI and you went to robot, but the robot's probably going to be powered by AI because they've got to make some level of decisions. I mean, I guess you could probably have an arm that, just like drop chicken in, drop chicken here, but you probably still need a human or another robot to do another component, another robot, and then your technology bill gets
maybe today
expensive.
You will, but pretty soon, I don't think you're going to need that many robots. Like, I'm pretty sure you can just buy one robot that makes chicken sandwiches and it can bread the chicken and fry the chicken and prepare the sandwich.
Well,
it doesn't have to be 4 robots.
There's a series of restaurants around me that actually have a robot that delivers the food. Somebody still cooks it, but they put it on a little robot and the robot walks it over to the table.
There's a couple of burger joints that a burger concept. I don't know if it survived, but it was called Flippy, and it was like a burger flipping robot. So they put the robot in the back to cook the food, but you could actually watch it cook the food because there weren't people back there. Whole side note, you don't have to worry about workers' comp. You don't have to work like it's far more sanitary to have a robot in the kitchen than a bunch of teenage boys. Let's be honest. So there's more than just the economics here of an argument for outsourcing at least some of those kinds of jobs to our AI robot overlords.
Yeah, well, then you got the other side of that is it's more sanitary until it springs an oil leak and then sprays oil everywhere. Or a thunderstorm rolls through and lightning zaps it, and then your $100,000 employee that is perfect is no better than a teenager that doesn't show up.
Right. Maybe worse because he weighs 3,000 pounds and you can't move him.
But I think those are the anomalies, right? So
Right.
from the business standpoint, you could probably bake that in the equation and just go, I can have a spare robot, or I can do it. But let's talk AI. I mean,
Okay.
with AI today, people are able to outsource, task and particular, just like low level things like calendar organization or meeting
Mhm.
scheduling or, um, content creation. There's just so many little micro tasks that you can do that you would normally pay somebody. Maybe on the low end, you'd pay somebody, $15-$20 an hour to do it. Or it'd be a full-time job that's, 60, 70, $80,000 a year. But right now, if you can use AI, somewhat efficiently, you
Mhm.
can almost replace an entire person just by making the current people more efficient. And the real question is how much more of the workforce is going to get slimmed down, because it's not there's the old antic of everybody working harder. But if you
Mhm.
give people tools that allow them to work faster, more efficient, or you're just literally offloading work,
Right.
then you need less people.
Yeah.
So the real question is like, where do you sit on that continuum? Because if you're a person that gets cut from it, you're looking at this as AI is coming after my job. If you're the person that knows how to utilize the AI and you are now as powerful as, 3 to 5 humans at once, you're probably loving this.
Yeah, but I think that's a really big important distinction. I might call them the haves and the have-nots, right? The people who know how to use AI will radically improve their value in the market. The people who don't know how to use AI will end up getting a job where the robots tell them what to do. Uh, and I think that divide is here and it is accelerating at us.
Well, and there's at the end of the day, the more robots that get into the marketplace, or the more AI, well, let's say it this way. Um, you've seen Nvidia's shares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Skyrocketing because they're the processor to have for AI right now.
Right.
Somebody's still got to make those chips. Somebody's still got to service the servers. There's,
Mm-hmm.
still infrastructure that has to be maintained to support that. And so I think there's a level of, does it shrink the job pool, or does it just reshuffle the job pool? Because
Ooh, good question.
even if you get into the AI robot, well, let's talk about AI in a more practical sense at a restaurant.
Okay.
Right now, there are call systems right now that you can actually talk to an AI agent that can
Mm-hmm.
do a level of tasking without the human.
Right.
Check my schedule, check my bank balance, check this, check that, give me this input.
Mm-hmm.
You could theoretically probably roll that out. And it wouldn't surprise me if somebody's either already done this, doing it, or about to do it. You could roll that out in the drive-through for order taking.
Sure.
You don't have to have there's so many factors on it, between the attitude that you might get from an employee to, there's a one person working the register and the front counter and this, that, and the other, and you're creating a line, versus
Right.
that AI agent at the speaker box having that more natural conversation, taking your order. That just streamlines it. But somebody's got to maintain that. When that breaks, somebody's got to fix it. Somebody's got to maintain that when you change the menu. I mean, there's things around it. So you may have taken the order taker from the fast food restaurant out of the mix, but you still have a problem to be solved. Now, what you might have to do is, let's say you take 100, I guess that'd be a cashier / window worker for a restaurant. You may take 100 of them out, but did you create maybe 20 tech jobs from that?
No, I think it's 100 to 1.
Okay. Well, there is a scale. I don't know what the scale is,
Yeah,
but
but like if I was having to solve that, I would say, look, I don't want to build the AI. Apple's already built it with Siri. So funny, my phone starts lighting up when I say it. Right? Like I would just use the AI that's already built there and tie it to my menu. And that way people can just walk up and order
right,
with
but
their
somebody still
phone.
has to. That's the downfall of AI at the moment.
Sure.
is AI still has to be very micromanaged. AI is very good at
Yes.
programming a particular task. And the
Right.
second it's outside of that, it either flounders or it gives you bad results. And so the problem is you still need someone to orchestrate all of this. A
Yeah,
lot of
but I
people.
need one guy to upload that menu and keep it working, and I can replace every cashier in 2,000 restaurants.
Oh, well, I mean, let's take it a step further. You could build an AI worker that takes the menu and does the formation and does it over. My point is you still need somebody to maintain the infrastructure to make sure that AI system is working.
Yeah, okay.
Make sure the
And
servers are
and
online, make sure
and you
the
need a
install the
disaster
systems.
recovery. You need a disaster recovery solution in case when something goes wrong, it doesn't kill your entire business. So yes, but I think a vast majority of these non-complex order taking kind of simple follow instructions jobs, I think they're gone in the next 10 years.
Well, exactly. Well, I think those particular jobs are gone. The question is where does the labor force shift to? Because every time
Okay.
we have a generational step forward, the workforce just evolves. Now we have
Totally.
another problem is to a degree the workforce evolved so much that we ran out of, guys to do skilled labor, I say, people to do skilled labor. We didn't
Right.
have enough welders and craftsmen and plumbers. So there's a level of technology forced a whole bunch of tech jobs, and then we ran out of the jobs that still have to be done.
Right.
So I think there's still a level of those jobs would be around. But here's another question. Okay, so you implement the AI. You've got your robot that hands out the food, robot that makes the food. You've got the AI, assistant taking the orders, and maybe you have a restaurant that was normally staffed with 15 or 20 people that's now staffed with maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
There's two things I want to get on that one, but I'm going to go one way is okay, that should be a cost savings. Will that actually drive price down because you don't have the labor cost, or are people going to maintain the current cost even though their margins should be better? But that's a little bit of a gotcha chess 22 because you don't know the technology cost for it. Are you going to
Yeah.
have a $2 million capital expenditure to put in a series of robots that at the end of the day are going to be more efficient, but it's going to take 5 years to pay that off versus I can just hire people to do the work today and not have a $2 million capital expenditure. So there's that component of it. Then there's the other component of, okay, let's say we got the cost down. It's more cost effective. It's equivalent to 2 years of operating with employees. That's reasonable. The systems are, designed to run for 5 years. We have to replace it. Okay, that's still good. And then it comes down to, um, will businesses utilize that cost savings to bring prices down to drive more volume, or will they keep prices high? And then the other component of that would be what happens for those one or two employees that are in the facility? What are they expected to do? Are they still expected to run a restaurant, or are they expected to be machine engineers to
Right. They're
make
tech
sure they can
support.
fix a machine when it breaks?
Yeah, because it could be a potentially very different type of person. Right. It's not the lead cook in the back who's now your IT hardware support guy.
But yeah,
Um,
you might have $100,000 engineer working at your restaurant, and now you need one of those at every restaurant to maintain this high tech system.
right.
So I think that's where it kind of evolves. It is there's a level of adding the technology is going to reduce the actual skilled people like this, like the reduction in welders and craftsmen and plumbers, electricians.
Right.
By reducing that labor force, it's I mean, like how much a welder right now you can make a much better living as a welder than you can doing many things right now.
Yeah.
So
Certainly
as a
early in your career.
right. So I think it's still too early to really tell where things are going to shape. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to see the job market morph. You will see
Yes.
more of it in there, and I think the jobs are going to shift into you're just operating the tool.
Yeah, I think there's some data here. If I remember correctly, the World Economic Forum says that AI is projected to create about $39 million jobs, but destroy about 85 million jobs, right? So you're net down about 15, 16 million jobs uh, over the next couple of years. I think it's interesting how many businesses are investing in automation. Uh, I think a McKinsey study says something like 85% of organizations investing in automation, but automation isn't necessarily just robots, right? It can also be, that's not just hardware, it can also be software. There's a lot of software things that are now being automated that are replacing jobs.
Oh, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. There's a company I'm invested in that it's more of an e-com business,
Mm-hmm.
and right now there's a large call volume, and it's high volume, low margin,
Mm-hmm.
and there's people that have to take these phone calls to answer very simple questions.
Yeah,
We're investing heavily in AI right now, so we don't have to have this call center force. We should be able to reduce
sure.
the call center force by 80% and
Mm-hmm.
only have enough call center to take the really hard stuff that can't be answered with AI. I
Right.
mean, I think every business is looking for something like that right now. So it's not surprising that, 85% of businesses are employing automation.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I mean,
do think there's a level of technology. If you look back over the past, let's say, I mean, it was definitely prevalent in the 90s and the early 2000s, but we'll just go the last 20 years.
mm-hmm.
There was a big rush in building software systems, but a lot of those
Right.
systems were built to basically house and display data. They
Right.
weren't built for to tell the employee what to do or to do the work that was needed. It was just to
Mm-hmm.
present all the information so a human can make a logical choice.
Right.
So I think a lot of companies now are they're taking it to the next level
Mm-hmm.
and embedding that piece into it. And I think those are the jobs that are most at risk. The data
Mm-hmm.
analyst,
Yep.
data processors, data analyst, people, their job is literally to look at a system, make a decision, and put an action into it. That can that entirely can be replaced with AI today.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people are doing today.
Yeah. Which is interesting because there's also, I mean, you could use that description to describe lawyers, financial advisors. I mean, there's a lot of jobs that it's like read all this information, take it in, make a decision. I mean, to some extent, doctors are that, lawyers are that. Like that, those are not just minimum wage jobs. Those are really high skill, high dollar jobs. Do those go away? What do you think?
No, I think I mean let's talk attorneys for a second.
Okay.
Somebody's still going to have to duke it out in court. Somebody's still going to have to understand. And let's be honest, in every courtroom, it's the
Yeah.
greatest showman, right?
Right.
It's who can be the better showman on the information. But I think where it's going to go, where it's going to streamline it, and hopefully drop my legal bill. Well, not that I have a lot of legal stuff going on, but in the sense of just in general, is paralegals. The
Hmm.
people that do the data collection and pulling all the facts for the case. I mean, I think if you could drop a bunch of documents into a repository and the AI can categorize it and collect it and put it together and summarize it for the attorney, in theory, they should be more efficient. They shouldn't have to sift through, phone
Right.
records and record logs and emails. Like somebody's got to read all that stuff right now and come to
Right.
conclusions and hand it to the attorney for a case versus if it can be fed into an AI system, you're really removing the support infrastructure for the attorney, but somebody's still got to interpret the law and defend the law and present the case and this, that, and the other. I, I think it can be another added tool of you're probably going to see like predictive models of like, okay, here's the case, here's what we have, here's the suit, what's my probability of winning.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
I
I
think
think
that's probably going to be a layer. Where are you seeing AI right now? Because it's really hot. Everybody's talking about it. But there's this great quote, and it's been attributed to lots of different people that says the future's already here. It's just unevenly distributed. Uh, what are you what are you seeing as kind of the cutting edge right now in AI? Who's doing this well, and what are they doing?
I struggle a little bit with that. I mean, I think the leading in AI right now is just OpenAI opening up the interface. Since they put out ChatGPT, it has just opened the door for so many things. So
Mhm.
I think right now what's the core to AI that's doing it well is I think the AI systems that are being generated. I think
Hmm.
everybody's still trying to figure out how to interface with it, and what I'm seeing and what I would like to see are two different things. What I'm seeing is a lot of
Okay.
people taking an existing process and streamlining it with AI.
Okay.
I'm not seeing anything, and I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm not seeing anything that is really leaping and bounding what OpenAI did. Now,
Hmm.
there are some caveats to that, like I forget the name of it. There's a couple of systems out there, and I know OpenAI has one, but where like they can recreate an entire scene in a movie. You know, they can give it the parameters. It can make a car chase and blow up and this, that, and the other, which is really cool.
Hmm.
That's a very narrow use case.
Right.
Where I'm seeing a lot of usage for it is really in the marketing world, where you need
Hmm.
quick content, you need scripts, you need blog posts and stuff like that, because it really is helping create that content at a faster pace.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I'm also seeing is I'm seeing the quality of content kind of come down, because it's kind of as the AI has much less emotion into it. I mean, it has a degree of
Hmm.
emotion, but you're starting to see kind of generic
Yeah.
posting start. So original content is starting to fall by the wayside, which is ironic, because then if you put the time and energy, the human goes back to making original content, it soars right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
does.
it's interesting the cycles we go in, but I've yet to see anybody use it really, really well. And let me get one difference between AI and machine learning models, or
Hmm.
well, there's large language models, but uh, model data. I think there's a lot of like big enterprises that's using models to use model data to do more predictive. It's
Hmm.
not really AI.
Right.
It's just they're just using kind of an AI buzzword to do, model data. I see a lot of that going on. But as
Hmm.
far as like true generative AI, I think we're still on the very, very tip of unlocking it.
It's funny. I'm working with a client right now that does a lot in the big data, data science, data engineering space. They've identified this opportunity that everyone's talking about AI, right? We should go in with an AI offering. And I'm like, great, what does that mean? And they're like, well, that's the problem is everybody wants to do something with AI, but nobody really knows what that means. And worse than that, when you really press on them and say, okay, let's imagine a world where we have built the exact thing that you want, right? And it's done, we've rolled it out, and you go ask it this, you go ask the magic box a question like, how should I price this product? And it gives you an answer that doesn't make sense to you. Do you do it? And they're like, oh, of course not. We would have to sanity check it. It's like, okay, so you've spent a lot of money for a black box to give you an answer that it can't explain to you, and you're not going to listen to it. So why are we doing this? And they're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't.
Well, so
and,
that's
and
a
it's hard because it's like, if I could explain it to you, you would have gotten it and you wouldn't need me. The fact that I have to explain it to you might indicate I'm right, but you can't understand it. And so are you gonna follow it blindly, or are you just going to ignore it and keep doing what you've been doing? Because you could sink hundreds of millions of dollars into building models that will tell you things, and you're not going to know if it's right until you do it.
So you hit a very solid point there. One, AI is just the new buzzword like cloud. Remember
Oh
back in the
yes.
day, it was like everybody's got to be on
Oh,
the cloud. Oh, are you on the cloud? You got the cloud. You have the cloud. The cloud. The cloud. The cloud.
what's our cloud strategy?
Right. It's like the cloud is just a buzzword for the internet. Anyways, um, again, AI is just a buzzword for language or a model data model processing. And again,
Mhm.
we are branching into the very, very early stages of actual AI, and I think
Mhm.
in the mad science labs of these of some of these companies, I'm sure they're on the cusp of much further ahead. But what we have today, and like you just said, the biggest problem we have with AI right now is we have the potential to do so much, but we distrust it,
Mhm.
that then we build all these systems and tools around it to verify it. Just to your point, what's the point of doing this? We don't trust the black box. It's almost the same thing with self-driving cars. There's still a large percentage of the population. I'll never drive. I'll never be in one of those. I distrust it. It can't. Statistically, self-driving cars have crashed an order of magnitude less than humans. You know why? They don't drink.
Drink.
The fact that they don't drink and drive is already a huge stat boost, but we distrust it. Right. So I think that's where, because we distrust it, we've taken AI and we've shrunk it down to what is the minute task we can use it for because we believe it. Like, rewrite this email for me.
I can understand it. And I'm comfortable outsourcing it, right? Like I'm comfortable with the AI scheduling a meeting for me. I'm not comfortable with the AI deciding my, the mix of my investment portfolio.
Well, exactly. Well, and I mean, let's just use. I think there's a little bit of societal programming that's happened here. Mm-hmm. I mean, not political and by any means, but how many people believe every single news outlet that they listen to?
Oh yeah.
It's all over the place, right? Like, there's big establishment. I'm for the local guy. I'll only read, X, or I'm Fox News. I'm only CNN. I don't just trust one or the other. I think we built so much distrust in information that's compounding into AI as well. We just distrust it.
Yeah. So would you say we're kind of in the hype phase of AI, or are we actually starting to see some real adoption?
I think we're starting to see, again, using AI as the buzzword, I think we're starting to see lower level task automation. I think we're starting to see, because those are the tangible things. We can give it a small task. Let's proofread my email.
Right.
I'm dyslexic. I use ChatGPT every single day to send hundreds of emails. It used to take me an hour to write a well thought email for some of these things I have. Now I can just go into ChatGPT, bang, 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 bang. It knows my writing style. It knows what I'm trying to convey. I just give it the crap. It's got spelling errors. It's got typos. I'm dyslexic, blah, 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 blah. And in, a fraction of a second, I get a better crafted email. And now I'll still go in there and tweak it.
I've gotten some of those emails that you spent an hour writing, and I'm very thankful for ChatGPT. It's much better on the receiving end.
Right. And even after me spending an hour trying to proofread it and asking my wife to read it, or you to read it, or somebody else, it's still not perfect. But I think that's where we're starting to see traction. Is it's a tool. We really have gone from, the let's put ourselves as a roofer a second. I would hope there was never a roofer that used a rock to drive in a nail, maybe back in the Stone Ages, but well, I guess maybe the original hammer might have been a stone on a stick.
Sure.
But then you evolved into, the actual hammer, what we have today. And then now you've got the, electric or pneumatics, nail gun. Right. I think OpenAI, or AI in general, as we know it today, is the pneumatic nail gun. It's just a better, faster tool that can do what was, a normal hammer. Right. Anybody could drive a nail in, but you might put some dings around the wood you're nailing. And if you're an experienced craftsman, you can probably get the nail in one hit perfectly, but most of us aren't. Whereas with a nail gun, you just got to line it up and hit the button. Right. You can still screw it up. Don't get me wrong. And so I think that's really where we're at, is we've got a great tool that'll allow us to be more efficient. And think about it. If you got a roofing team and they all are using hammers, they probably aren't going to get 2 or 3 roofs done in a day. Versus you have a roofing team that's using, pneumatic nailers, you're probably going to get 3 times the work through. Yeah. I think that's where we are with
employ
AI.
Less people or do more work in the same amount. Right. But it's interesting. I like this analogy because it's like, I don't see the pneumatic nail gun isn't going to go up, knock on the door and say, "Excuse me, sir, we had a really bad storm that came through your neighborhood. Most of your neighbors got their roofs messed up. I'd love to go up on top of your roof, take a look and give you a quote." Like, AI's not there. AI's not ready to do that part yet.
Well, and here's why I would say it is, but it's not worth it yet. It is, but it's a game of numbers. AI, you could probably go in there and say, find all the areas that were impacted by the storm, source this database to give me all the contacts. You could make that human more effective. You could tell that human, you need to go knock on these, 100 houses because statistically they were the hardest hit, versus guessing where you think it went. But You could also use it to send text messages and emails to those
Mm-hmm.
people. But there's the folly of it, because everybody gets so much spam chunk in emails that
Right. I'm
it's a
not going to
game of numbers,
respond
right?
to an email or a text message trying to sell me a new roof.
So the most effective sale is actually the person knocking on the door. So then how do you balance the two?
Yeah.
You use the systems to find the houses that are the most impacted, basically your ICP. You can tell your sales rep, get exactly here's where you need to go to make them more efficient. And then
Mm-hmm.
you can use, they upload pictures or whatnot of the damage, and, maybe use a drone to get the top view.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can feed that back into a system that can then better communicate with the homeowner more
Yeah.
effectively than the human can. So at the end of the day, it goes back to the pneumatic nailer, the
Yeah, it
the
is.
the nail gun. Every step of
So,
that process got more efficient, but I didn't remove the human. I made the human more efficient.
so you said something earlier when I asked about what are you seeing in AI? You said there's a difference between what I'm seeing and what I want to see. So I'd love to go back to that and say, what's the vision that you would love to see for AI
Oh, I would
as
love to
as it
see.
pertains to corporate and making work not suck?
I would, and this is a scary thought. I want AI to prompt me back.
Ooh,
I
say
want
more.
AI to prompt me. So I'll give you an example. I write code.
Hmm.
And I was working on a project the other day, and I'm going through it, and I'm prompting the AI to, like, hey, write this function for me, do this function. And it really did help me out. But my problem is it's weird. It forgets. I was going through the code, and I'm like, wait a minute. 3 steps ago we added this function. You just removed that from the equation. Why? Oh, yep. I'm sorry. I forgot to add that. Let me add it back in. Like, now I feel like I'm dealing with a. I know this is probably horrible. I feel like I'm dealing with an outsourced resource from the Philippines, where you kind of have to give them, like, train them on every little single step by step process. And if, like, you go out of
No
bounds,
disrespect intended to our Filipino listeners.
nope, nope, none whatsoever. Just you've got to. There's some classification of employees that you have to spell every. If the process
Sure.
isn't perfect, anything out of bounds, it falls apart.
Hmm.
That's what I was experiencing with the AI, and what I would love it is to say, like, are you trying to do this? Or
Hmm.
maybe it would be, hey, I see you've got this. Would you like to try this instead?
But hold on, that was Clippy back in the 90s, and we hated it. Like, do
But
you like? I, man,
no, no,
I've
no.
said more dirty words about Clippy than than I care to admit.
Let,
So
let's be
why
honest.
do you say you want that?
Clippy was just like, do you want to add the, like, Clippy was like, I mean, yeah, no, we're not even going there. It,
All right.
what contextualization, taking it in context and improving
Mm-hmm.
upon what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Because the one thing that drives me insane when I'm using AI today is it's almost like it's constantly trying to teach me. Like, no, I don't
Hmm.
need you to teach me. I don't need you to explain it. And I can go in there and change it. I can change the prompt, like, stop trying to explain it to me. I just need you to produce the code.
Right.
And it's one of those, because it doesn't have context, it's just literally like swinging all over the place. And I, and
Yeah.
the other, like, this thing I was doing the other day, I spent maybe a total of 16 hours, course of a couple of
Okay.
days, working on this one particular segment in an application. And I used AI my AI was my programming buddy. At the end of the day, it probably saved me maybe 2 to 4 hours overdoing it myself,
Okay.
because of the prompting back and forth,
Yep.
because it was just swinging all over the place, or it would just forget an entire block of code. It just was all over the place. And again, that could be user error. That could be me. I mean, someone can tell me how to use it better. But
Hmm.
it did save me 2 to 4 hours, and the code quality was a little better. There were
Okay.
some things about it I was like, oh, that's better. That's more pedantically correct in how you should
Sure.
write the software. Okay, I'm going to incorporate that into my functions. And then I did use OpenAI, and I dropped in the code and I said refactor using this, and it did it, which was nice. But it doesn't have that contextualization to the level of going, but do you want this? Or I think you mean this? Or, hey, here's a library. Like, I want it to be suggestive in a forward progression,
Hmm.
not it. like right now it's like a glorified teacher, or like it
Mm.
wants to explain everything to me, or it wants to give me all this context about why it did what it did, as opposed to understanding what I'm trying to do and trying to drive the program forward. It's solving the surface level problem as opposed to
Mhm.
getting to the root problem.
So it's interesting that you would say that, because one of the things I've spent a lot of time thinking about recently is the difference between analysis and synthesis, right? I, I studied engineering in undergrad, and we spent years figuring out how to analyze problems. You take something, you break it down into pieces, you break those pieces into pieces, you break those pieces into pieces, you solve all the pieces, you put them back together again, you've got an answer, right? And that is really what the whole world has been working on for, I don't know, maybe the last 50 to 100 years, right? What is interesting is that they teach people how to do that in lots of different schools. The thing they don't teach, at least that I have not seen, is how do you take the thing and go up, right? And put it into higher and higher levels of context to give it extra meaning. And there's a lot of us that are really good, particularly technical people, engineers, very good at analysis, but we don't have a framework for synthesis. We don't have a framework for where does this thing belong in the universe of potential contexts, and how do I help it find its place so that it has meaning? And I think that's a really interesting problem that I don't think I mean, maybe somebody's working on that, but I think that's the next level of AI for what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you remember, think of software in the, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much. It was nice to actually have it in a software stack as opposed to on paper. Huge
Mm-hmm.
leaps and bounds. But
Oh, yeah.
many of these softwares, there was like 100 buttons you had to choose from to choose the next step,
Mm-hmm.
and like every button was a little micro thing, and we just kept on it. At the end of the day, we just kept band-aiding more stuff, and these, especially some of these, mainframe systems, or big point of sale systems, etc. And you had to have so much knowledge on all the components and where to click.
Mm.
That's where we are with AI right now. And people are looking at problems, today's problems. They're solving today's problems with this technology, but all we're doing is we're just going surface deep, because, I mean, for one, that's the limitations of the technology at the moment. But we're just looking at how to solve it with that. And I feel like we're back into like an early 2000s software package, where, like with these AI agents people are talking about,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases, we mapped one out the other day, we're going to need like 38 agents to basically do what one human can do. Now, once we get it all designed and developed and this, that, and the other, it'll be great, we think. But you
Yeah,
have to, like, oh,
you better need a lot of scale for that to make economic sense.
well, that's the other part of it. Like, what's this actually going to cost? Because now you got
Mm-hmm.
these agents, those take cost. You got to feed it. What happens if it routes? Does a human have to come in and fix it after the fact? Is it going to actually work? And
Right.
so that's where I think in this, but that's bleeding edge.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in the early phases of this technology as a whole. And again, if we get that deployed, we will reduce some call center staff, and we'll make our existing call center staff more effective, or we can grow without having to add more headcount, which is great. We can even afford to pay our call center staff more,
Mm-hmm.
and take on higher caliber calls as opposed to the lower caliber calls. So there's a lot of options there, but we still got to prove out the technology. It's at the end of the day, we still need a human to do the hard work.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about the vision that you had for AI of really understanding the context, predicting what you need, why you need it, and kind of prompting you in the direction it knows where you want to go. Uh, I like that. I think we're a ways from it, but I love where you're trying to go with that. Um, I want to take maybe a little bit of different. If you were leading an organization, let's say it's a large organization, you've got a lot of people, you got a lot of processes. I don't really care what industry it's in, but you're the senior leader, and you know that AI is coming. I would love to kind of walk through the vision, journey, culture, results with you on that, right? Like, what would be your vision for AI and its impact on your business? What's the journey that you would take, both technically, but also with the people and the processes, culture wise? Like, what impact do you think this is going to have on your culture? And then also, finishing with results, what impact do you think results would have? And if we've got to pick an industry or type of company to make it more specific, that's fine. But I'd just love to have you walk me through your thinking on that.
I think there's two ways you can take it. And one, the way I'll walk it down. And then I think there's the other way, which is more, squeeze profit, more money, we'll say the greed route. I
Yeah,
think,
but we don't want to recommend that because that makes work suck.
So, right. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to go with, for me, if I'm running whatever, company A here, and I'm looking at this, I think the vision is, how can we achieve our mission more effectively? How can we, there's a level of balance, right? A company needs profit in order to grow, to scale, invest, provide raises. If there's no margin, no mission, no money, no mission, right?
Right.
So from a vision standpoint, okay, if we want to reach more people more effectively, more faster, then there's, just in general, okay, we need more income so we can hire more people. So are we going to, or there's two ways to do it. You can either cut costs, which doesn't always work to get the margin where you need it to invest,
right?
Or you increase pricing, or you can try to increase sales. But if you increase your sales volumes at your current pricing, you're end up having to invest, more hires and stuff. And so it can be done, but it's not as effective as either raising prices or cutting expense. So then if I'm going through the vision of this, is how do we reach more potential customers? How do we serve our mission better, faster, more efficient? And then from a journey standpoint, I would go.
Well, hold on, time out. An interesting question that comes to my mind, I would want to ask my clients is, what will AI enable tomorrow, or how will AI enable you to achieve your mission and vision tomorrow in ways that you couldn't have yesterday?
That's a phenomenal question.
And chew on that for a while. Like, you've got a mission statement, but there's some sort of a vision, something that you're trying to accomplish as an organization. What does AI enable you to do in the direction of that vision that you couldn't do yesterday?
1,000%. So from my standpoint, I'm literally, that's a better way of saying what I'm trying to allude to.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think through the question, because it's going to be different for every industry, every type of company, every size company. But I think there are legitimate things that are becoming open or becoming possible that were not possible 5 years ago.
1,000%. And remember, at the end of the day, if we look at what we can do right now, AI is just another tool. It's no different than if you're going to go from, QuickBooks to NetSuite, or you're going to implement HubSpot. Like, it's just another tool. The problem with it is, and I hate to say this, the amount of systems and tools I've implemented in companies that ended up with either workforce reduction or the workforce staying flat, or not flat, but no new hires and being able to double the workload. Like, the thing is that happens every single day. And I think the problem with AI is because it's starting to encroach on the jobs people do, as opposed to when you bring big systems in, it's just a reduction. It's just okay, we have a system as opposed to a person manually inputting this data.
Right.
We have a sales force that puts data into a system as opposed to a person that types in all the data manually. Right. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing, but on the under the hood, on the surface, though, you're encroaching on people's actual, the components of everybody's job, I guess you could say. Right. So instead of attacking one or two jobs, you're attacking all the jobs. So in the sense of going back to this, it's a tool. From the journey perspective, I would go down to, okay, how can we, and again, I'm going on the other side of this, how can we, for the benefit of better serve our customers, how can we provide better benefits, maybe raises for our people, better work-life balance, using this technology? So what can we automate what can we take off your plate that will help you do your job better, faster, more efficient, so that the company can benefit so that we can do those things. Like, again, you can't, if you don't have profit, you can't provide raises.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's part of the journey of this is, how do we better live the mission? And how do we make our people, how do we make the work, the people side of the equation, or I'm going to start with the people side of the equation. How do we make that better so
Mm-hmm.
that we can also make our customer side better? And at the end of the day, we should be able to get the same level of, or we should get an expense decrease, which will maintain our profit margins without charging our customers more. Or
Right.
we may be able to decrease our fees and maintain a higher caliber. If we can decrease our fees, maybe we can serve a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some cases, maybe we need to increase our fees because we're adding this exponential value. So I think it's not about increasing revenue or decreasing revenue and bringing the balance. At the end of the day, the vision is, how do we serve our mission better, faster, more efficient? Next step, how do we serve our people better, faster, more
Mm-hmm.
efficient, to serve our customers better, faster, more efficient? And AI is the current tool we're looking at to do that.
Yeah, it strikes me that if you're the senior leader of the company, you're not going to have all those answers. I think you need at least your leadership team spending a decent amount of mental bandwidth saying, what does AI enable me to do tomorrow that I can't do today, couldn't do yesterday? And what does that look like for sales? What does that look like for operations? What does that look like for HR, IT, finance? Like, there's just whatever your specific uh, set of responsibilities are, you need to put that AI hat on and think down into your organization and begin to almost dream of what what capabilities either already exist or will exist here shortly, and how does that enable me to serve our mission, given that I'm responsible for finance, right, or marketing, whatever your functional responsibilities are. That's got to be a team effort. One person's not going to know all that.
Agree. And let's take it to the culture component. I think one thing that everybody's got to keep in mind: people don't fear change, they fear loss associated with change. That's why we get resistant. We resist change until we understand it. It goes back to what you're talking about with the AI company you work with, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the black box. I don't trust the data, so therefore I'm going to do it my old way.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're bringing AI into the business, and it starts with what I just said, if you're going in there to squeeze profits and you're going in there to cut headcount and you're doing it for all of the results reasons, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to drive fear in your organization, and then people are going to fear their jobs, etc. Right? Whereas if you're approaching this, and you got to be legit, not just say what I'm about to say, but actually believe what I'm
Right.
about to say. If you're approaching the culture with, we want to make this better for us, we want to utilize tools to make our work-life balance better, serve our customers, etc., then it comes down to what can come off your plate, or what can be automated, or how can we use technology to achieve this. And if you can rally the culture around the value of what it means, then you'll actually get great feedback from every employee in the
Mm-hmm.
organization about how they can automate their job, because they understand the reason why. It goes back to, starts with why, right?
Yep.
So if you're coming in and you're like, we're going to use AI and we're going to do things, and you build this fear, my job's going to be automated and I may not have a job, and you're going to get more people resisting, and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
say, well, AI can't do my job. Nope, nope, nope. And they're going to push.
Yeah.
But acknowledge the fact it's just another system, it's just another tool, and you can do great things with it within the business to make your current people and customers better, and the business more healthier. You'll lower that barrier of fear, right? Because people aren't afraid to
Mm-hmm.
change, they're afraid of fear or loss associated with it. You're removing the potential loss, and now
Mm-hmm.
it's, how do we do that? Because the other thing is, I've gone into companies and say, look, guys, we can't hire any more people. There's 5 of us in this team, and we have to double our workload. So the answer is
Yep.
not where everybody work harder and work till midnight every night.
Yep.
So what tools can we do so we could still do I'm a big fan of, everybody's paid 40 hours, salary, blah, blah, blah. How can we actually only work 30 hours? So if we can
Right.
find a way to do the work of 10 people with 5 and do it in only 30 hours, I'm willing to bet any business would give those people a bump in pay because the
Right.
profit margin they just generated. Go to yesterday's podcast, right? Be touched that number, that revenue,
Uh-huh.
that profit.
Uh-huh.
So if I can give you a 30-cent pay or 30% pay increase, not a 30-cent, 30% pay increase and get your job to 30 hours a week, would you not help me implement AI?
Sure. Yeah, but there is a fear there, right? There is an anxiety. But it's interesting because as you start framing AI as a tool, it reminds me of a situation that happened to me several years ago. Do you remember my assistant Julia? You worked with her a little bit.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, I had a great assistant. Her name was Julia, and I was onboarding her. She just started working with me, and I showed her my to-do list. And my to-do list was in a sticky note on my laptop. And I know you're a big fan of sticky notes, so cover your ears. And she looks at me and she's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "Well, this is just kind of how I keep track of all my stuff." And she's like, "Why don't you use Trello or Asana or like?" And she listed all these tools, and I'm like, "Guess I never thought of it." And she's like, "Here, can I show you something?" And she pulls up one of them. She's like, "Why don't you just keep your to-do list here? That way I can see your to-do list. I can do some of the things on your to-do list. I can put my to-do list there. And then you know what I'm working on." I'm like, I'm not going to fire her for that. That's brilliant. Like it's a better tool than the sticky note I had on my laptop. But she found a way to make herself 20% more valuable to me by augmenting herself with a tool. And I think that's a good analogy for us to think about AI. It's like, how can AI help make you 20% better at your job? And go talk to your boss about that. Don't be scared of that. Go find it, bring it to him and say, "Hey, I bet you if I use this or this or this, I could do 40 hours worth of work in 30 hours." And then there's an
Oh,
opportunity for you to go learn something else, do something else, take a promotion, like walk your dog. I don't know what it is, but there's so many opportunities there. But if you're scared of the consequences, you're going to run from it. And I think you actually need to run towards it and embrace it.
well, you're basically talking the Jim Collins good to great part of the flywheel
Hmm.
effect. He
Yeah.
talks. I'm probably going to butcher this a little bit, but he talks about you can have a job that has 10 people in it, and you pay 10 people the wage of 10 people. He says, or you can find 5 people that can do the work of 10 people efficiently, and you pay
Mhm.
them like 8. Well, what does that mean? It means the work of 10 is getting done. You're
Right.
2xing the throughput, right? Those
Mhm.
individuals are getting paid like there's 8 people on the team, so they're getting a higher wage,
Yeah. They're getting 130%
right?
of what they were getting paid.
And because they're high capable, high caliber, and leveraging tools, they can do the work of 10 people at a pace that is
And,
equal to 5.
and as the business owner, you're saving money because you're only paying for 8, but you're getting 10.
Right.
And they're happy because they're getting paid 130, 140% of what they were getting paid because they're producing twice as much.
So if this is the way I look at it as a business owner, and I would encourage other business owners to look at it this way. If you can apply the Jim Collins good to great formula there, and AI be the means to get that, why wouldn't you? Where
Yeah.
this is going to fall apart is when greed kicks in and people are trying to use AI to squeeze more profits or squeeze more out, or like you have to balance the equation. You can't bring in AI to squeeze the employees more and not provide the benefit on the other side. You can't
Yeah.
bring AI in expecting it to be a perfect replacement and fire half your team and expect perfect AI. Like it's a give and take.
Yeah.
Just like when a lot of companies brought in big enterprise systems, like when we all, or not, even in the SMB space, when email was a thing and everybody needed an email server and computers in the office, and you had to hire an IT guy or a fractional IT guy to come in and fix it. Like that was a
Right.
cost that got added by leveraging the technology.
Mhm.
So I
You
think
didn't
where
have
the
as many secretaries or people running memos back and forth across the city, messenger bike style.
Yep.
But you're right. You did, for every 10 of those, you had to hire an IT help desk guy.
So I think businesses that think they're just going to fire, this is the crux of the red line, right? I'm going to
Mhm.
fire my team. I'm going to deploy this AI software. It's just going to be perfect, great. Newsflash, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you
Yeah.
can look at it realistically and actually try to make every aspect of the business good, the employees, the customers, and the bottom line, then you'll
Mhm.
find a path to success to use AI, because at the end of the day, it's just another tool to be leveraged.
I really like the way you start with vision there of like, how does AI enable us to do our mission better? Uh, Go from the vision to the the journey. What's the process? How do we all get 20% better? Then to the culture, right? Because my big concern is I'm worried that some percentage of people will embrace AI and they will get better paying jobs because they're able to do the work of two people in the time of less than one, right? And those people are going to have more and more opportunities. And the people who fight this, the people who run, the people who dig their heels in and try to resist are going to not only lose their job, but they're going to begin this downward spiral of becoming less and less valuable because the next job is going to expect you to be able to use that tool. And now you can't get that job because you don't know how to use it. And I'm worried for those people. And you're right, that's the culture side of this. If we're just going for results, we're going to create there's no vision, bad process, bad journey decisions. It's going to wreck the culture. And you're going to screw those people for the foreseeable future, as opposed to vision centric AI strategy, partnering on the journey with your people to say, hey, let's all find a way to use AI to be 20% better a year from now than we are today. It builds trust, it builds effectiveness, it builds their capability so that even if something terrible happens and they're not with you a year from now, they're still more valuable to their next employer.
Oh, 1,000%. And you said something in there that I didn't think about when I was talking through this earlier. Um, it falls into like using it for the wrong manner. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a level of people are going to use AI to create more task for the employee. You know, it's going to mine the data and it's going to give them all the work they need to do. And all you're
Right.
going to do is just pile on more work for the human to do because you just automated the to-do list.
Right.
I think that's a very surface level solution. And though that may be a first step, is building a to-do list, I think you got to go full journey on this stuff. Is not how do you stack a to-do list for a human, it's how do you
Mm-hmm.
actually get the work done, either without it. Like, you have to elevate the human in this equation, not just try to wring more out of the human by having AI drive more on their plate.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
the difference between the red and green line. Red line, you're just going to squeeze your people more by having AI throw more at them, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
actually taking work off their plate, going
Yeah.
full journey on this.
I think there's an AI race to the bottom and an AI race to the top. And the race to the bottom is probably like that red line of how do I use AI to micromanage my people, to give them more work, to make them do more. Um, and and I think there's going to be people who do that, and it's going to end poorly for them and for their employees. I think there is another option, which is how does AI elevate? How do I get rid of the crappy work that nobody wants to do, that is in every job, right? Your best job, just as a side note, your best job is 80% what you want and 20% suck, right? There's just every job has some part of it that sucks. How can we make that as small as possible so you spend the majority of your time doing the thing that's truly valuable, doing the thing that's you love to do, that you actually get excited to get out of bed for? Like, I want that to go from 10 hours a week to 30 hours a week. And I got to get all these other things off of your plate. That's where the AI gets focused. That's what we're trying to do. I want to get rid of the low value add repetitive work to free you up to do more of the high value add, which would be creative work, which would be relationship building. So, high touch service, sales, creativity, product, like, engineering, like building things, not building version 10,000 of the same thing, but like building new things. I think that's where humans are really going to be able to always be differentiated from AI and robots, is our ability to create and form connections. And so that's where the value is going to go. People who know how to use AI to automate the repetitive, so they focus more on the creative uh, and the connection. I think those are going to be the winners in the new economy.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw one out there, and then I've got some stats I want to throw out. There's, I've always said there's a difference between a programmer and a developer. A developer is
Okay.
one that creates. Somebody's got an idea for an application. They got to, start the architecture and the codes,
Mhm.
the framework they're going to use, the technology, start actually writing the code to build the functional system. Versus a programmer is someone that comes in and refactors codes, cleans up, bug fixes, et cetera, et cetera. OpenAI is not a developer. Now, maybe there's an AI system out there that's getting closer to it, but
Mhm.
like even me, I've taken some existing systems or some ideas, and I've tried to prompt OpenAI to get it there. And me as the human had to put so much more intellect into it to get the AI to a destination. Whereas I've taken a particular file, threw it in, gave it the parameters, and said refactor it.
Mm.
Did it 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That's the thing is we still need developers, whereas
Sure.
OpenAI can replace some of the programming, bug fixes, QA, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But here's going back to the culture impact. According to this Pew research here, 52% of workers feel AI implementation is poorly communicated in their companies. Why?
I'm surprised it's that low.
Well,
I would have said like 90%.
Well, I think you got two forms. I think there's a lot of companies that just don't know how to even use AI. That they're probably the owners, the small business. They're going back to the pirate ships. I don't know. That may be I won't use that analogy. I think there's a level of maybe older small business owners are not messing with it. I'll figure it out when it becomes a thing when I have to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then I think there's a level of organizations that are leading with that, trying to figure it out. I think a lot of startups are using it. I think legacy companies are not. I think big enterprise is probably kind of implementing it more behind the scenes. But I think the real reason why that's 52% is for those that are doing it is because they're not communicating why. And I'm going to guess a vast majority of those is because they're trying to get the business equation in line. They're trying to increase profits and reduce cost. Right. Here's another interesting one. IBM paused hiring 7,800 roles, citing AI automation. That's from Reuters. Go ahead.
Didn't Meta recently lay off 11,000 people? A lot of them in development, because they're saying that more and more of that, entry level and mid level development roles can be automated.
Maybe, but this is interesting. They paused hiring 7,800 people. Not they laid off 7,800 people. They paused hiring 7,800 roles because, and I'm gonna assume in the study, or the little bit I read of the article, it's because they're trying to figure out how to make the people more efficient so they don't have to hire the people.
Right.
So again, that plays into it. And then I love this one. According to a Accenture statement here, AI will reshape 1 billion jobs globally by 2035. This goes back into what we were talking about earlier with the culture. The reason why people are so resistant to this is because it impacts literally every role in the business. Anywhere from, a person taking phone calls to a call box at a fast food restaurant, to sending emails, to the guy door knocking, on roofs, to, engineering, development, code writing, marketing. It touches everything.
Right.
Which is why I think it's such a going to have such an impact. So,
have you ever heard of the word Luddite? Don't be a Luddite.
Give me the definition. I've heard it, but I'm blanking on the definition.
Okay, so I think this is an interesting historical analogy for you. So the Luddites were English workers who, back in the 1800s, whatever, saw the cotton gin and other sorts of mechanical automations coming, worried that they were going to lose their jobs in the fields and in the mills. And so they started burning down the machines. And it was their way of saying, I'm scared of losing my job. I'm scared of losing my livelihood. And so I'm going to go burn this thing down. I think there is a risk. I think there's a very strong risk, right? A likely probability that some portion of our population is going to respond to AI like the Luddites, right? Burn it down, fight it, don't let it near my job because it's going to be bad for my business, right? And the opportunity here is to rethink your business and to say, look, if you are if you work with wool garments like the Luddites did, right? And you have a mission to make high quality clothes for people in your community, well, guess what? That machine now gives you the ability to take your mission and reach more people, right?
I
Is
think
it going to look the same? No, it won't. But if you just get focused on the task and not the mission, you should be threatened. But if you zoom out and think about what this will enable you to do, I think it's actually a very exciting time to be working.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I think this is why I say, it's history repeating itself again.
Mm-hmm.
A little over 100 years ago, maybe a little more ish. Yeah, I'd say a little more than 100 years ago. Think about farming, crops. You had
Mm-hmm.
teams of people that went out and picked the cotton, the corn, picked the crop.
Right.
Versus now you've got these big automated machines that, I mean, there's like what, a small handful of humans in these machines can clear hundreds of acres,
Oh, yeah.
in a very short amount of time. That's just the evolution of technology. The thing that brings AI to it is when farming was revolutionized, it didn't impact the average worker, other than, I don't know, if I'd have to go back and research this, like, did grocery prices get better, or was food faster to the table? Like, there was some impact to the consumer that was in the positive, but not every consumer was also a farmer.
Right.
So this is that revolution in every industry as technology has evolved. I mean, you go from the car,
Right.
airplane. I mean, just, big things over the years. So I think if we switch from the culture side of it to the results side of it, I do think there is a level of short term, either layoffs or restructures. I think
Yeah.
companies that are doing it to squeeze profits, they'll lay people off. I
Mm-hmm.
think smaller businesses will either, like the IBM stat, they'll stop hiring and force to figure it out. So I think there's going to be some dissonance in the
Mm-hmm.
switchover. And so I think there will be some short-term pains, but the
Sure.
long-term on the other side of it, it should be a win for society overall.
My biggest concern in this is the entry level jobs. Right. When I came out of school, I got a job as a procurement analyst, sat in a cube, building access databases. Right. That job is not going to exist much longer, if it exists at all. Right. But that's where I got my start. I spent a year doing that and then got, more and more opportunities. My concern is that if all of those jobs disappear, where do you start your career? Like,
Uh,
what's step one?
I think that's exactly what I'm trying to say. It's just going to be an evolution.
Hmm. Okay.
As the farming technology I just talked about evolved, they just went from one to another. Now there is a changeover, change management
Yeah.
process, and there is that gap in between. But it'll just be a new normal. I mean, I know this is very simplistic, but like when we learned how to drive a car, we didn't have a backup camera and all the sensors and beeps and all that stuff, right?
Right.
Versus kids today, they're taught with the backup camera and the sensors, and they didn't think. I mean, they kind of still teach it, but they don't need to look in the rearview mirror unless the camera doesn't work. So there's just a new normal. I think what we're talking about is there's going to be a new normal on the other side of this for that role that you're talking about. It's just if you're judging the new normal based off your experience, the gap is going to be wide, and that's going to be where the fallacy comes in. So the real question is like, what's the new normal for that role? If you're in this middle part right now, you're coming out of college and you're trying to figure it out, the best thing you can do is figure out how to adapt AI into what you're doing, to understand it, right? Like learn as much as you can right now. We don't know what the new normal is. 1 billion jobs. What was that? That was by
Wasn't that the
2035. It's 2025 right now. 1 billion jobs in the next 10 years. We don't know what the new normal is going to look like yet.
Yeah.
It's one of those, it's coming. You can either be on the leading edge of it, the inventive side of it, which is a very small percentage. You could be on the early adopter side of it, which means you're going to feel the woes and the pains and the bleeding edge of it. You can be on the early adopter side of it. You can be on the late majority, or you could be on the laggards. The
Luddites.
The Luddites.
We're trying to burn it all down.
Right. Statistically, 16% of the population is going to fall into that category. 64% is going to fall about in the middle, and then you've got the 16% on the front end of it. And the real question is where do you want to land? Because if you're 65 years old right now and you're 2-3 years away from an exit, you probably should just double down on getting your business sold, get it for value and get it sold. Versus if you're, mid 40s, early 50s, late 30s, take your pick, and you've got a business that you're going to hang on for the next 10 years, you should probably be thinking about how to incorporate this in and take the next 2 to 3 years to make sure you're prepared, because by 2030, it's going to be a total different game.
Mark Cuban, who owns the Dallas Mavericks, he can be a little bit of a jerk sometimes, but he's not stupid. He says that pretty soon, and he said this years ago, pretty soon, running a business without AI will be like running a business without electricity. And I think that struck me because he's not stupid. He's predicted a lot of things and made a ton of money doing it. And he thinks that AI will be as foundational to a future business as electricity is to current businesses. And if you don't have a plan for what that means for your business, you need to get one very, very quickly.
So this thought just popped in my head when you said that. There was a point in time where learning to type was useless. Then it became, when the typewriter came into the mix, then there were people with typing skills that would type, and there was a percentage. And then the computer came in and you had to learn how to, versus now typing is just a thing. I think that's kind of, it's a different scale, but this McKinsey statement right here says 90% of future jobs will require some level of AI literacy. I think that's the equivalent of people learning to type. We're in that transition period where kind of some of us that were pre-AI, or say some of us, most of us that were pre-AI are learning to type AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I think the best thing, like you're talking about, is it is coming. You can be on the lagging scale, but it will catch up to you. It's just like having a, machinery and doing no maintenance on it. If you run it in the ground, eventually you're going to have to replace it, and it's probably going to be more expensive than if you just maintain the other one.
You don't have to get an oil change in your car, but
you'll buy a new car.
it will force you to make a much more painful decision.
Right. So I think that's where, again, you can pick where you want to be on this continuum, but just know how it impacts your people, know how it impacts your business, know how it impacts your customers, your profit margins, etc. And I would say if you are a business that's choosing to lag behind, you are at risk of losing some of your top employees that are on the progressive side because they're learning it. Everybody's learning their sales, right? A vast majority of people are trying to figure this out. And so if you lag behind, you may lose some good people because you lag behind. And you may be okay with that. You got to think through the pros and cons of this. It does have the potential to increase your bottom line, increase the value of your business, especially if your business is more future-proofed by using AI. If you incorporate now, you can increase the value of your business. Right. But you can't do it at the expense of your employees or your customers. You got to keep the whole equation in balance. And And I mean, I think at the end of the day, nobody knows, only the Almighty knows what the future holds. So all we can do is adapt with what we have in front of us today and keep moving forward.
Yep. All right. How would you future-proof your career in an AI world? We've hit a couple of these already. I think everyone needs to be learning something about AI, finding a way that AI could make your particular responsibilities easier, faster, or make you 20% better. The macro trend here is that anything repetitive or anything that requires a lot of data is going to become automated. The value is going to be in creativity and connection. The ability to make something new, the ability to lead people, the ability to connect with customers, emotional intelligence, like that's where the value is going to be in the long run, right? It's not tomorrow, but over the next 10 years, creativity and connections where the value is, automate monotony, repetition, analysis, all that kind of stuff is going to be the robots.
Yeah, I think like you said, what can you do to future-proof your career? Learn AI tools, develop soft skills, stay adaptable.
Yep.
Adaptable, not adoptable, adaptable.
I'd say AI is not going to replace most people, but people who use AI will replace those who don't. You can either tell the robots what to do. In the future, there will be two kinds of jobs. People who tell the robots what to do and people who do what the robots tell them to do.
Yep.
You've got to decide what kind of job you want to have.
Well, and I think that goes down to what can make work not suck. What can make your work not suck is by learning how this impacts you and how you can leverage it. What will make your work suck is if you push it, head the sand, back away, because it is here. It is coming.
Yeah.
And it's like right now we're in the calm before the storm, or the recession of the water before the wave comes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make work not suck, make AI work for you. You want to make work suck? Use AI to work against you.
I like it. I'd love to hear what other people think. I know we've got people listening from all around the country, maybe even all around the world. I'd love to hear what they're seeing with AI, where it's making work better, where it's making work worse. Please drop us a note. Let us know what you think. Give us your opinion. And next episode, we're going to be talking about how AI is impacting the job hunting, how recruiting and hiring is changing. Very timely, because I'm in the process of trying to hire a couple of people right now. Look forward to hearing your thoughts on what AI is doing to that space.
Make work not suck. Our podcast that talks about exactly that. Our process, vision, journey, culture, and results. We present real-world business solutions that make the difference. Our goal is to make work not suck. Hosted by Ryan Hodges, co-host Daniel Steer. Join us each episode and make work not suck.